When I first saw Praga Caput Regni, I was so unimpressed with the cover and the idea of this game. What could be more mundane than a Euro-style game about medieval city building? But the game was recommended by a good friend of mine who really knows my tastes, so I decided to take a closer look, and I'll put it this way, I usually don't make review videos unless I think a game is worth talking about. So in this video, I'll talk about how the game is played, and I'll rate it on its theme, mechanics, components, strategy, and complexity. Now, as I show you this game, you're going to see that it has a lot of components, so I want to give you a tip that is not a paid advertisement at all, but just a really helpful tool. I discovered these inserts from Folded Space. They're made out of a high-quality foam that you can glue together, and they double as trays that you can remove for storing the components that are in the supply as you play the game. They're even designed to fit snugly in the box so that for the most part, they do a good job of holding things together if the box is stored on the side. For a game with as many components as Praga Caput Regni, I'm really glad that I have it, and I will leave some links in the description. I do want to say thank you for Eddie for giving me this great tip. In Praga Caput Regni, which means Prague, the capital of the king, you are wealthy citizens supporting the new King Charles in the construction of various civic projects in the new capital of Prague. The way that this theme comes across is first of all through the very beautifully detailed map of Prague, where there are several sites illustrated that are still standing today, including the Hunger Wall, the cathedral, and the Charles Bridge. And it's also represented in some of the actions that you can take during the game, such as constructing the bridge using eggs. In fact, the rulebook has a page full of details about all of the sites in the game, as well as a few historical notes about what the significance of the game elements are. For instance, one of the reasons why the bridge is said to still be standing today is because when they constructed the mortar of the bridge, they used eggs to mix into the mortar. Now, that being said, I really appreciate the effort that's put into this game. It really feels like a love letter and a tribute to the city of Prague. However, when it comes to art, I really limit that aspect of my review when I'm talking about components. In terms of theme, I'm talking about how theme delivers in the way you play the game, and whether or not the actions have significance about this kind of medieval setting. So in the actions that you're taking, this is action selection and tile placement. There is a little bit of engine building with some mining that's going on your player board, and then there is the collection of eggs, which are used for the construction of the bridge. Now, that part of the game, the eggs and the bridge, I do think that really plays into this medieval setting, but the rest of it feels like a very typical Euro game. So for theme, I would give this game a 2. To rate the game's mechanics, I'd like to first give you a brief overview of how this game is played. I won't do a full rules teach because this is a complex game, but we'll take a look at some of the big concepts and gameplay overall. So this game is played with players taking turns selecting actions from this rotating gear at the top corner of the board. Now on this gear, a player can select any of the available actions. However, the gear does rotate with every action that's taken being put in the back of the gear. So what this means is that the actions that are in the back have a cost associated with them, whereas actions that haven't been taken in a while may give you a benefit or at least cost you nothing at all. So you'll select an action tile, you'll gain the benefit found at the center of the gear, and you'll pay any costs or earn any reward associated with the outside of the space. Now, every action tile has 2 choices on it. Every tile has one choice, which is selecting and constructing a tile, and then the other choice has something about advancing on a track, whether that's the King's Road or your player board. So let's talk about the tile placing mechanic first. There are 3 types of tiles that you will be constructing during the game, and these are available in 3 markets that you will draft from. Now, in all 3 of these markets, there is one special tile, which you can only take if you've selected the action tile with the benefit that gives you access to special tiles. Upgrade tiles are tiles that aren't going to have a cost, and you're going to be putting them on your player board. This tile will give you a benefit every time you take the associated action. In addition to that, it's also going to help you advance on the university track, which is something I'll talk about a little later. The next type of tile is wall tiles, and wall tiles go around your player board. Now, on a wall tile, there are adjacency bonuses and corner bonuses. So players are going to try to place their upgrade tiles and their wall tiles in such a way that they can optimize these rewards. Now, I'm not going to go in depth into what all of these rewards are, but some of these things will give you tokens, which you can use to perform actions at other times in the game, whereas other rewards are going to help you with scoring at the end of the game. Now, lastly, there are village tiles. Village tiles also have a cost associated with them, and when you take that tile, you're going to be placing it on the common board. The board is set up so that every space is surrounding one of the plazas in the town. Now, players are going to be competing to have majorities around these plazas. Whenever a plaza is completed, because it's surrounded on all of its sides by village tiles, then the player who has the most influence around that plaza is going to get both benefits on the plaza, whereas other players are only going to get the benefit on the bottom. Now, once again, with these village tiles, you see the opportunity for corner bonuses. So I want to talk a little bit about those. There is an area on the board in the top which represents 2 tracks that players can advance on. They can either advance on the cathedral or they can advance on the hunger wall. When they make these advancements, their player piece is going to be located on a different row and a different column on these grids. Each row corresponds to points that they'll earn at the end of the game, and each column corresponds to a multiplier which the player will receive for each of the tokens they receive during the game. So these red and blue tokens are what you earn from the corner bonuses. So what's interesting about this is that when you place these village tiles, you'll advance on the cathedral track, but you'll earn tokens for scoring on the hunger wall. At the same time, whenever you build wall tiles, you'll advance on the hunger wall, but you'll earn tokens for the cathedral wall. So players are going to be motivated to build both types of tiles so that they can get the tokens and the multiplier. There is one more track that you'll sometimes be able to advance on when you build one of these tiles, and that is the research track, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more when I talk about actions that you can take that affect your player board. So let's take a look again at these action tiles. We have the 3 types of tiles that you can build, either for upgrades on your player board, your wall, or village tiles. And then we have some actions that will help you advance on your mining tracks or King Charles Road. So first, let's talk about these mining tracks. So alongside the player board where you track all of your actions and your upgrades, you also have a player board for yourself where you can mark your production. So you have 2 types of construction, quarries and mines. Quarries give you stone, mines give you gold. And generally speaking, the stone that you get is used to construct your wall tiles, whereas the gold that you get is used to construct your village tiles. So the bottom part shows how much you're going to produce, and there are also various bonuses that you'll get as your production level increases, whereas the top part of the board is going to mark your inventory. So as you get more stone or as you get more gold, you'll increase these dials, and when they get to certain points on the inventory, either 6 or 9, you'll be able to take different benefits. Some of these benefits help you advance on your research track. So the research track is adjacent to the university track, and these 2 things are yet another multiplier. At the end of the game, you take a look at how far you've advanced on your university track, and then that number is multiplied by how far you've advanced on your research track. As you advance on your research track, you'll also be able to take research tiles, which you'll place next to your player board, and these will give you additional benefits that you can utilize during the game. Then lastly, you have advancement on the King's Road. So advancing on the King's Road, the ultimate purpose is to get a scoring tile which you can use at the end of the game. However, every time you advance, you immediately get a benefit that becomes available to you. There are two benefits. If you have an egg in your inventory, then you can use that for a stronger benefit, and then you can always get the second benefit for free. Eggs can be earned during the game by constructing tiles, but they can also be earned as a benefit from taking an action. In fact, when I play the game, I will often take the King's Road action if it comes with the bonus that allows me to trade 1 coin for an egg. Now, like I said, I'm trying to keep this overview very brief, and already that's a lot of detail to take in, so let's just quickly recap. During the course of the game, your objective is going to be to take moves that are as efficient as possible by maximizing benefits. So one of the benefits you can get is by taking actions that have been neglected by other players. You'll always get the benefit in the center of this gear. When you perform an action, whether that's constructing a tile or advancing on a track, you'll either get the benefit from the tile that you place or from the track that you advance on. And ultimately, your objective is to use these benefits and these actions to move up on various tracks that will multiply to get points. So you've got your blue tokens that you'll take by placing tiles, and that'll be multiplied by your state on the hunger wall. You have red tiles, which are going to be multiplied by your column on the cathedral, and then you have your university track, which is going to be multiplied by how far you've moved on your research track. And then finally, in addition to those multipliers, you'll be taking victory points for special effects based on the bonuses you've taken, as well as majorities surrounding the different plazas on the player board. So that's how this game is played. Let's talk about how satisfying these mechanics are. As I mentioned earlier, this game doesn't score highly on theme, and if you can't tell, all of this seems very abstract. It's a lot of just optimizing different benefits, rewards that don't really have a lot of significance to the theme of the game, but nevertheless, I found this really engaging and a lot of fun for my very puzzly mind. This is the kind of game that I like to say I love losing, because regardless of the outcome, whether I win or lose, I have so much fun getting there. I really like weighing all of these different choices, all of these factors, and trying to make a great move. Also, this is a game with a predetermined number of moves. This is a 16 turn game. So it's not the kind of game that's going to go forever, and you'll know exactly how many turns you have left in order to complete the things that you need to have done by the end of the game. There is some excellent offensive and defensive decision making. On one hand, you can make a choice that's going to give you a ton of points, but on the other hand, you may want to block an opponent from gaining a benefit that will let them get more tokens and maximize one of their multipliers. Now also, this is the same designer as the game Woodcraft, and I really enjoyed Woodcraft as well. Between the two games, I think Woodcraft does a better job implementing the theme by far, but mechanically, I think that Praga Caput Regni has more satisfying and streamlined mechanics. So I really enjoyed it. I don't know if everyone would so much. There are a lot of rules. There is a lot to think about. I know plenty of people who don't like puzzly games, but I do. So I wish it wasn't so complicated to explain, and I think that counts against it, but I do think that it is very engaging and fun, at least for me. For mechanics, I'd give this game a 7. Component-wise, I think this game has some excellent stuff going for it. First of all, I love the artwork. Earlier, I described it as a love letter to the city of Prague. I really think they did an excellent job in the detail they've added. I will say that for some people, this medieval theme is going to seem a bit dry. I'm really into it, though. But to an even greater extent, I appreciate how the components support the mechanics. All of the symbols in this game make a lot of sense. They're very consistent. I like how getting a stone versus producing stone, there's a difference in those icons. It's also very clear which icons will advance you on different tracks. The iconography is just consistent throughout. And then I love how on this action wheel, as it rotates, when it gets to the point where it's time for a new season, there is a reminder cube that falls into a gap, and then that'll tell you to advance the round marker and maybe refresh the tiles that are available once you get to Era 2. There's a very similar thing going on in the player board, where as you adjust these dials, once you get the benefit, you take the cube out of the way and you're reminded because of the presence of that cube. That to me is fantastic. For components, I give it a 9. When I rate strategy, I'm always thinking about how many moves in advance you can plan and how much the element of luck affects gameplay. So there is an element of luck with this tile draw, but nevertheless, there are definitely very clear objectives, and once you've sort of set yourself on a path for which multiplier you want to capitalize on, you will definitely get a sense of what you need to do before the game ends. This is a game that you can't play the same way every single time. You really have to look out for and capitalize on the opportunities that come your way, and sometimes the game is going to present excellent opportunities, and other times you may have some tough luck. And I think what makes the game fun for me is that you really can't tell who's winning until the very end. So in this game, for example, you're not going to find yourself in a place where you think, oh, well, I'm losing, why should I even try? I really think that things can shift in your favor, especially when Era 2 tiles come out, which often have better effects than Era 1 tiles. But still, that element of luck does kind of interfere from this being like a pure strategy game. I think for strategy, I'd give it a 7. Lastly, for complexity, because there are so many score multipliers in this game, I feel like for you to keep track of everything that's going on, you would have to be doing some serious calculation. This is the kind of game where you kind of just have to do it intuitively or get a sense for what move is better than another. You could go way off into analysis paralysis land with this game. There's just so many factors to consider. I sort of, try to look at everything and end up going with my gut. It's just a lot to take in. Like I kind of described it earlier as a very puzzly game. So it's definitely very complex, probably a 9. So overall, this is a game I really enjoy because I like how much there is to consider. I like the puzzliness of it, and I'm also very satisfied in these mechanics. The game is all about analyzing many opportunities and trying to find the best one. I also would compare this game a lot to the game Golem, which is by a different designer but takes place in the same city. So if you like puzzly games with a high degree of strategy and complexity, then I would recommend Golem as well. Thank you for taking a look at this review. If you'd like to find more about these games, you can always check out my web app at theperfectboardgame.com, where every game has its ratings in these 5 attributes, as well as a summary of what those attributes mean. So you can take a look at that, and I will leave links in the description. Thank you. I'll see you next time.